Den är solen också.
Ja.
Det är typ bara... Får vi se.
Hello.
Hey.
No, I think it's...
Do you want to do a final screen share check, Rebecca, or?
I think we should be fine.
Yeah, okay, sweet.
We're just gonna start off the second camera here as well, so we have everything. Great.
Bit later. We got a couple of people tuning in, but we get started at 12.
Yeah. So 1 minute.
Yeah.
Countdown.
And the sun is coming out here in Stockholm as well. Is it sunny in Dublin?
What do you think, Johan? No. There's white and gray skies, but we have had really nice weather like the last week, so I have nothing to complain about. It's lovely here.
Nice.
Nice. I was in Dublin for 3 weeks ago, but then the weather was actually better in Dublin than in Stockholm. So
Yes.
That was nice.
Yeah, we had great weather just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
How long were you here for?
I was there for, I think, 3 days. But it was great. It was really good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. But I think it's 12 o'clock. So let's get started.
Cool. Great. And welcome everyone. And I'm really excited to start this webinar up about the branding strategy and specifically for Meta. So let's kick it off. So my name is Jonas, and I'm one of the co-owners at Keywordio, and I'm really happy today to introduce Rebecca, and Johan, I'm happy to introduce you as well. But extra warm welcome to you, Rebecca, who's joining in from Meta in Dublin, where you work as a senior account manager and also work very close with some of our favorite customers like Houdini, for example. So tell us a bit more what you do on a daily basis.
Of course. Hi everyone. Very, very happy and excited to be here. As Jonas mentioned, I'm Rebecca and I work at in Meta's Dublin office. So unfortunately, I couldn't be with Johan and Jonas at their office today, but have to tune in from here. So I work on the Nordics market and specifically mainly with Swedish clients. So I work with advertisers who are trying to make the most of their Meta marketing with us. And what I talk about a lot right now is, of course, the branding part. So glad to be here and talk some more to everyone here about that today.
Great. And you work a lot with paid social and really into the details, but tell us a bit more what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah, of course. So I spend a lot of time in Meta's different platforms and advertising tools. And yeah, basically testing out all the different I'd say campaigns and the tools they have, but also the other social media accounts for a lot of other clients that I do. But of course, also hosting these events.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And I think actually a side note that I haven't shared, but I think you are actually one of the people that have the highest speed on the mouse setting I've seen. So you're super fast. So if I spend 10 minutes in Meta, it's like spending Yeah, it's like you spend 10 times more time, so you're super fast on that.
Yeah, everyone who borrows my mouse like, oh, I get dizzy of just touching the mouse.
Yeah. So if any of you work close with you want to join the next meeting you have with you want to ask for a screen share and ask him to click around, you will be dizzy. Super fast on that. So great, let's get going. The agenda. I will do a short intro, and I will share some interesting statistics about how to really combine branding and top funnel marketing to actually bottom line and net sales, which I think is super important when you build a case for how you build this up. Then Rebecca, you will talk a lot about the details and why it is important and what you can actually do within Meta's opportunities that you have, and really what is happening right now. And for example, why reels are so important, for example. And then you will take some more clear examples on how to really make this happen, and also share some interesting examples of how to work with B2B with the Meta platform, because B2B and marketing, it's a little bit tough, but that is an area where we see is growing a lot.
Yeah.
So that's what we have. And if you have any questions, feel free, add them in the chat on YouTube. And if we don't have time to take them in, then we will try to reach out to you afterwards as well.
Yeah.
So what we do at Keywordeo, this is what we do. We work with paid search, paid social, creative content. And creative content, what we mean is that we see a lot of companies have great assets, but many times, and Johan will show some examples, it is so important that you customize them for the placement that you are working with. So when you work with reels, you really need to optimize it for the reels. And that is what we are doing with the creative content team that we have. Then, of course, market automation, make sure that you build more loyal customers and how you get them to come back. And of course, data measurement and privacy. So these are the areas that we work with today. And what we're gonna do in terms of how we work with 3 different ways of collaborations with our customers. So the first one is actually project-based. These could be small projects specifically to solve a specific problem. Could be a pixel setup, could be a deep analysis on assortment and pricing. It could be those kind of like special projects. Maybe you don't have time, or it's even an interim solution for a creative content part. Then we do customized workshops or courses. So let's say that we have done a GA4 setup with the server-side tagging. Maybe you need to have a workshop and a customized course related to that. Then we build that customized for our customers. It could also be that you are looking into expanding into new markets and you need to decide what markets are important. Then we can help you build a priority list based on all the data that we can acquire to help you set out the strategy for global expansion, for example. And then the third option, how to collaborate with us, is really work as a regular agency. So if we manage one channel, more channels, or the whole media mix. So these are what we do and how we work with this. And yeah, feel free to reach out and ask for a quote. We always have our most senior experts look at those queries and then come back with what we see is the solution. And it always turns out to be a good discussion. So don't be a stranger. Feel free to reach out. So if we look at like what we are doing today and really why you should trust us when it comes to paid social and Meta, for example. Last year, we managed 130 million SEK in ad spend on Meta. And of course, like I said, Johan, you have a really high speed on the mouse, right? But there also happened a lot on Meta's platform, right?
Yeah, of course.
And this is very important. And this is also what we see is going to change in the future as well. Like there's going to come out a lot of new products and you need to be smart how to test and and continuously learn from this.
And I think that's a good way, because Meta have the fastest of the platforms, in my opinion. Not so much down or latency when you're running the ads, which is great.
Great. So what kind of customers do we work with? We work with everything from e-commerce startups to big global brands, business to business, selling direct to consumers. And yeah, I mean, when we met Sheriff Avenue the first time, it was a small startup, really building up. Now it's one of Sweden's fastest growing. Houdini, that we will share some great examples with, and we also spent some time together with you, Rebecca, in the Meta's office last time you were here. So these are some of the customers that we work very close with. And why our customers trust us? It's really because that we have a lot of lessons learned and really deep competence. And if we look at the ratings that we get from our technology partners, that we are top rated and the highest partner tier for Meta. We are top rated as a top 2 in Sweden when it comes to Google Ads. We have the top rated also on TikTok and also on Pinterest. So we see that it's important for us to be able to give advice and help our customers out, not only on one channel, but also on the whole media mix. And we think this is getting more important in the future as well. So branding, and why is it important? So this is a really interesting study that has been done based on the Institute of Practitioners in Advertising, the IPA Data Bank study. And I mean, if you're a big global brand, maybe you're already a partner to IPA, and maybe you have access to this database as well. But for you guys who don't have, this study is about trying to figure out, okay, what's the optimal split between in my media mix? What part should be allocated to brand and what should be allocated to activation and getting that purchase and conversion? And of course, first you need to figure out, it's important to understand what kind of maturity do you have on the market, because if you're a global D2C brand launching 2 new markets, of course your home market will have a completely different brand awareness than a new one. So first year, early growth markets, and then a mature brand. So here you have a really good guidance for how you should think about this based on this study. And it's based from 1995 up until 2018 cases. So looking at this compared to where you are, and think about it, because I really think that you should have some interesting learnings from this. Then connecting branding to net sales, which is also a very important case when you have a discussion with a CFO, for example, or the CEO, or if you have a board meeting. So Walmart has done this, and this is also done over extensive amount of time. This is actually over 10 years, where you actually look at the y-axis here. You have net sales indexed, and on the X scale, you have actually branded searches. And you see that the correlation here for each dot, it's a really high correlation between increased brand searches with net sales. So this is a really strong correlation that actually builds the case for long-term brand building and connecting that with net sales at the end of the day. So this is very important to be able to look at these kind of analysis when you make the long-term case for it. Another way is to look at this study. It comes from Kantar, and it's from last year, and where they actually segmented out the most powerful brands in the top 10 portfolio, and then they comparing that to the MSCI World Index for really looking at what's the value of brand equity when it comes to the stock exchange. And you can actually see that the blue line outperforms the index with 311% units. So this is really something that build a case for long-term building a strong brand equity. It's very important. So with that, I look forward to hear more from you you guys, Rebecca and Johan, about, okay, how do you actually make this happen? And how do you actually, should you do this right now on Meta's platform?
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you, Jonas. So let's dig into that a bit more. I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and then we'll get into it. Can we see it?
Yes.
Johan and Jonas will have to say, and I hope everyone else can as well. All right. So what we're going to be looking into today is essentially how we can incorporate brand building to make our bottom line and business performance increase. Because I'm just going to assume that most people on this call are advertisers who are optimizing mostly for conversions. And that's great, and that's something that our platform does really well, but something that we see increasingly working better and better is when we put in those upper funnel objectives, such as consideration and brand awareness or reach. So that's where we're going to start off today. But before kicking off completely and going into the strategic part about how we can think about this, I just want to take a moment to mention and highlight that, of course, there's a lot of uncertainty and change that we're seeing today in the media landscape. So whether you're looking at the economy or inflation or the new trends in the industry, there's a lot of shifts going on in consumer behavior. But what we need to remember is that amid all this, the advances in AI and machine learning have really enabled consumers to have an increasingly personalized experience and are presenting now increased opportunities for brands to actually tap into that and make personal connections with people even more than before. So what we will go through today is some insights. We'll review some consumer and industry trends and how we can work with those to drive our performance. We'll also look at the impact brand building can, of course, have for your brand and in your overall account structure, and the implementation part of it. So how do we work with our data, with our testing, to leverage the very best of our brand solutions? When we're fueling the bottom line of our advertising, we don't just want to think about specific or singular campaigns, but we need to think about the overall structure. And when I think about the overall structure of how we can connect with people, it's not just through one-touch ads, but it's more so how we can create a relationship with someone and make them understand our brand and understand how we fit into their reality. And when we think about just our strongest connections in our personal life, whether that is with family or friends, what makes them so meaningful for us is, of course, that they're personal. And with the increased use of machine learning and able to personalize the content that we share, we're now able to tap into that more and craft messages and creatives that are actually personal to people. We're not just putting one image out there and hoping that people will convert from that no matter who they are or what they're doing, but rather we can adapt the content and send personalized messages, images, videos to all different people in our target audience. So this is what we know. Adding branding definitely has an impact on your overall marketing. Some numbers to highlight this is that we can see 100% greater reach when we add branding. And this is for only 36% higher spend because we're going higher up in the funnel, right? And 100% higher reach is, of course, great news for anyone who wants to make their audiences bigger. We can also see a positive effect on the organic search lift. We see a bigger amount of incremental sales. And of course, this is the people that we want to reach. So incremental sales means anyone who wouldn't have converted unless they saw these ads. And if we can get that number to go up, that's great news for our Facebook or Meta marketing, but also, of course, for our overall sales. On top of this, of course, we see greater efficiency at driving the long-term brand metrics, and to keep on pushing that and really trying to be present with our audience gives us a lot, both in sales and of course for the brand overall. So what I like to talk about is, as you might have heard, being a connected brand. So with all of these shifts, we need to tap into all of these new opportunities for brands. And when I talk about how you can do this, I usually focus on two things. It's the foundations and it's the multipliers that we can use. So foundations is everything that we need to have in place to be able to deliver the best possible marketing, and the multipliers is the things that we can use to build on that to actually make our performance go up and keep on going up through iterative testing. So the strategy for being a connected brand and incorporating your brand awareness strategy together with your performance strategy is to look at these three things. Connected delivery. So we want to plan and buy media in a way that maximizes the efficiency of your investment. And then we also want to have connected storytelling. And this is what type of messages we use, what's the creatives, what's the videos, how am I talking to my audience in a way that's engaging to them. And then the last part is connected insights. So I'm always talking a lot about testing. I know Johan liked to perform a lot of testing as well. We see great results from this. So be mindful and remember that we don't always know our audience as well as we think we do. So really push the envelope and keep on testing to see what actually delivers impact. But let's start with the connected delivery part. We know that we can build brand on lots of different platforms and lots of different media. But what I'm of course going to talk about today is how you can build your brand on Meta, because we're seeing that you can do this very efficiently. When conducting studies together with Kantar, we're seeing that Meta can even drive up to 40% more efficient branding metrics than you can through TV or online video. And I think this is mainly because we have such a broad reach and so many placements and different platforms that you can reach just within your ads manager. But as I mentioned, foundations are critical to this success. So we need to look at targeting. First of all, don't handcuff your delivery by putting too many restraints on who can and can't see your ads. Make sure you're utilizing broad targeting. This is working very well right now, so don't go too nitty-gritty into who's going to see your ad. Our algorithm has it covered. We also need to look at the frequency. We know that if you're doing campaigns where you just push for a short period of time and then pull back, or if you're not showing your ads for a long enough period, then you're not going to have the same sustained result over time. So be mindful of your frequency. Make sure that your audience can see your creatives a few times, not too many, but make sure that you're always there and make sure that you have your campaigns running for a longer period of time.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of good examples of this, especially when we do these audiences or like insights of new accounts, that they have like short period of times of campaigns that is running for like a couple of days or a week. And then they pause it and they're like, hey, Facebook didn't work. And I was like, well, you didn't really try it the right way. Or they have like only campaign driven setup. But we actually seen a really good result of the clients we have a more like long-term like thinking.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's very tough to pull back from a market, then go back into the market. So if you have the capacity to stay there and stay relevant and seen from your audience, then that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is to try and optimize for multiple objectives as the multiplier of this. So remember, we have the foundations of the frequency, the targeting, and then the multipliers here is to keep going outside of that performance objective that we all love so much. So we want to use brand objectives to maximize our reach, make sure that we get the most amount of people and don't just keep on feeding our ads to the same little group of people all the time, because that's going to be a saturated market in a while. Also work with consideration, nurture the engagement of your audience, make sure that you're driving people back to your website. So I love working with the traffic objective because it really gives us the opportunity to show people new things that we are doing. It can be lots of different things, whether that is new product categories or even blog posts. But keep that relationship going by using the midst of your funnel as well. And of course, performance. I don't think I need to tell anyone to start using performance-driven objectives right now, but we have the app promotions, of course. We see lead ads working really well right now. So if that's something you haven't tried out, please go ahead. I'm setting up quite a few tests right now and seeing some great results initially. So that can also help drive sales at the end of the day. So what I'm trying to say is really that each campaign objective does play a distinct role in your marketing mix. And we can lose out on a lot of our results if we focus on just one or too few of these objectives. And we have some great examples here of the gain in effectiveness you can get when you add a new objective to your marketing mix. So obviously adding performance, if you're running brand and consideration, is going to give you quite the uptick in performance. But we also see this for adding consideration or brand. And the same goes if you do it the other way around. So if you have an account structure where you have brand consideration and purchase, which is lovely if you do, please go ahead. But if you remove one of them, so say you remove brand out of the mix because you don't think that's going to give you the most bang for your buck, we've seen that performance for the account can actually go down with 16%. The same goes for consideration and performance. All of those needs to be ongoing in the account for you to actually maintain that effect. So I want to present a case that I love. This is a case from Pandora. I'm sure most people have heard about them before, and for those of you who haven't, it's a jewelry brand, massive brand. They work a lot with necklaces, with bracelets, with little charms that you can add on, and rings. And they've been working on our platforms for a really long time. What they've been doing previously is to go only for the performance objective, so sales. But they wanted to start to reach new customers, while of course still maintaining their performance efficiency. So we had very strict like ROAS and CPAs you still need to match, even if you're going more on top in the funnel. So what the team looked into was, how can we use broad audiences, of course, together with multiple objectives to keep on having our great results, but to also add on new customers so we can have incremental reach and incremental sales. So they set up a test trying only performance versus a full funnel approach where they had consideration, brand awareness, and also performance. And the results were quite good. So they saw a 73% lower cost per incremental conversion. And this is a number that I, of course, love to see. They could see a big uptick in their new customer acquisition year over year, so 118%, great. The number that I really, really love is the increase of size of the retargeting audience. So they got a 4 times increase of their retargeting audience. And this is a number that I just want to highlight and stop at for a little while, because I think all advertisers in here know how efficient their retargeting audience is, right? So that's usually the best performing audience. That's the campaign that really drives our sales. And imagine if we could increase the size of that by 4 times. I think for most people that would be a pretty enticing thought. So it's not only about the sales at the end. Well, it is, but it's also about what we can do with our audiences and how many new people we can acquire and get in, and get them to actually be part of our great retargeting audience and part of what drives our sales. So to wrap the connected delivery part up, foundations, always important. So start there, broad targeting, put the right weight on timing, on frequency, and also make sure that you're always top of mind for your potential customers. So have a sustained duration. And when we have that in place, we can go into adding the multipliers. So in this case, that would be to have a broadened message, because with AI and machine learning and our algorithm, we can send different messages to different people in a much easier way. So it feels personalized for the people who get the message. And then, of course, the thing that we're talking about today, test multiple objectives. See what it can do for your performance. Because when we're looking at the studies that we're performing right now, we can see so many different benefits. But of course, testing is the way to go to make sure that it actually works for your account and to see what objectives work the very best. So we're going to move into the connected storytelling part. And I think this is probably my favorite part. It's a lot to do with the creativity. How can you create experiences and build strong relationship with your audiences? And when looking at a study that we did together with Ipsos, we looked at why people use different media platforms. And we can see that both Facebook and Instagram are actually really high up on how people want to connect, but also how people want to be entertained. And one thing that we do know is that when we ask people what makes them stay connected with the brand or what they appreciate, a lot of people mention creators and how they have a big influence of how you actually have a relationship with a brand. There's a lot of different platforms to do this really well, but we're seeing that the audience really thinks that Meta can provide very personalized content. And I think we have our lovely algorithm to thank for that. It's working great in actually finding who will respond best to different types of messaging. But it's also platforms where we find a lot of shopping inspiration. So we have a lot of good things that go together when we work with ads through our ads manager account.
And you have a pretty good way to find influence as well, right? For the brands who need to help it.
That's correct. I know you've been working with it quite a bit, and I think we have a QR code coming up. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. So you can read the blog a little bit later.
Yes, perfect. So stay tuned, everyone, for Johan's part of the presentation as well. Looking at the performance, because I spoke now a bit about how people feel about creators, but of course it's the bottom line performance and the sales that we want to drive. And when we look at branded content, which is when we work with creators, and we compare that to our, it says BAU here, but it stands for business as usual ads. So branded content compared to business as usual, we can see that using creators gives us, in general, a 53% higher click-through rate. Great news. We can also see that it generally gives us a 90% drop in cost per acquisition, which is also a KPI that I know I look at quite a lot, and I'm sure that many advertisers here do that as well. And also, we know that with a 99% probability, branded content ads, so when you work with creators, will outperform business as usual ads only. What we also know, and I like to talk about Reels now, it's the fastest growing content format on our platforms right now. 140 billion Reels were played across Facebook and Instagram each day. So this is really a format that I highly encourage you to tap into if you haven't already. And we're seeing that not only is this a high converting format that works well for the placement itself, but we see the language being used for Reels is really what drives people to feel connected to a brand, because it's not the brand themselves only talking about themselves, and it's not only high quality video, but more so it speaks more to our more basic needs of connection and entertainment. So what we see works really well is definitely comedy clips. We see tutorials, life hacks, and stuff that is oddly satisfying is the things that people really appreciate on Reels, but also that being taken into the feed format or story format is something that I'm really seeing is improving more and more now. So try and incorporate this type of language not only within Reels, but within your whole account. And to summarize that type of language, I think this is what we need to look at. So we need to make our creatives for Reels, but I want to say all of your creatives, make them entertaining, make them digestible, and make them relatable. If you do all of that, you have a much bigger opportunity to actually connect with the people that you're trying to reach, because you're not just a brand, right? There's people using your brand or purchasing from your brand, and we want to have that connection really clear to people so they feel like, yes, this is for me. So I've talked about a few of the multipliers on the connected storytelling part. But before going into our next section, I just want to mention the foundation here again. So when we work with this, make sure you always apply mobile first best practices. 70% of the return on your investment is going to come from your creative, not your account structure. So make sure you capture attention early, brand often and early. So within the first second, I want to have seen your brand before you start talking about what else there is to know about the product. Always use the right ratios and frame it for mobile. I know that Johan is going to talk about this some more as well. Don't use the horizontal format when you have a story placement. It doesn't work very well, so make sure you have adapted to the mobile framing. And always go for both sound on and off, just so it works for everyone who's watching. So the foundations here is optimize for the placements, have the best practices for creatives in place, but then start looking into Reels, look to partner with creators, and experiment with AR. It's growing a lot. So if you can tap into these resources now already, you're going to have a lot to gain from that as well. Lastly, connected insights. So what we know here is that when you work with branding, you have a long-term effect, but you also can have short-term effects that we also need to consider. So we know that we can get a much higher reach, of course, from incorporating upper funnel objectives, but we can also see that people start looking for your brand more when you're always there through brand awareness reach campaigns. So usually when we evaluate our performance, we look at the short-term return on investment. But we also need to realize that most of our return on investment is actually going to be long-term. And generally speaking, that's about 60% of your investment. So that's quite a lot. And if you're selling something tech or like interior design or durable goods, that can be even bigger, up to 76%. So please make sure that you also understand the importance of looking at the long-term effects of all of your marketing.
Yeah, I think it's a great example of like sports brands or sports team, like if you see like the big tournaments, they were promoted by cars or maybe like shoes or something, and you as a kid always look up to what your role models use and wear. And like if I see like, for example, skiing, Audi everywhere, and it's like, yeah, I want an Audi later on because that's what my like stars are doing.
Of course.
Building a long term, and then promoting it, of course, on the social medias.
Definitely, always. Yeah, so look at your short-term return on investment, but also remember, use different objectives to also capture that long-term return on investment. So we want to have the foundations of testing always, of course, but then we can add on multipliers such as evaluating our long-term brand equity or working with marketing mix modeling. But always start with the testing part and make sure you run A/B tests and also make sure you run conversion lift studies. I know Johan will talk a bit more about this shortly. It's very, very important. So to wrap this up, how to succeed with your branding on Meta is to, of course, start with the foundations. So work with brand awareness, campaign awareness when it comes to these types of objectives, and then start adding on multipliers. So make sure that you have that broad targeting, effective creative, and that you're doing testing. And then we can start adding on different types of objectives and how we can work with reels and work more with our long-term brand equity. And with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Johan to show some more examples of how we can work with this in a really good way.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Rebecca, and really good start and foundation. And now we'll show a couple of good examples of what we have learned using exactly these tools. So let me share my screen and I will jump into it. Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. But yeah, let's go into the branding strategy on Meta. So first of all, when you are creating a branding strategy, it's really important that you define your goals. And there are, I guess, all different companies have different goals when you're running ads. But when it comes to branding, there are usually a few that is pretty common. And I say like CPM is one of them. Another might be CPC, or it might be reach or impressions. But it doesn't really matter like which goal is your goal. But more importantly, decide that you set a goal before you start advertising, because then you can compare it if you reach the goal or if you don't reach the goal after, like, let's say each month or after like each week, etc. So I think it's really important to set the goals before you get started, and also along the way to update your goals. And then define the audiences. So Rebecca mentioned it's really good to go broad, which is exactly true. We always have a broad audience on when we do the ads, but it's also good to analyze the data to see actually where does your customers live. Is it in the city or in the suburbs? What phone do they use? Is that in like an iPhone or Android? What are the age or gender? To see like maybe it's a lot more females that buy my products than males. So you can add another like ad set that optimizes for females in that case. And then of course you have your custom audiences that can be synced with your CRM system, like people who have subscribed to your newsletter, etc., or your current customers, because the retargeting one, the ads will most likely have a lot higher performance than the prospecting one. And then before you get started, or while you also run the ads, I think it's really good to gather some inspiration. Like always spy on your competitors. What are they doing? How does their ad look like? You might get inspired, and of course you're not supposed to copycat them, but you can get some inspiration and put it into your perspective of the brand. So Meta have a great tool for this. I hope you all have tried it, but it's Meta Ads Library. So if you scan this QR code, you get to the Meta Ads Library, and I will show a couple of different examples of a few quite big brands. Montec is a Swedish outdoor brand. So if you scan a QR code, you will get to their ad library. They have really nice ski videos and ads, I say. Red Bull, you should all know, hopefully. They're probably the biggest energy drink company in the world. Shopify, it's like the build website. And McDonald's, the restaurant. So here are a couple of different examples of Red Bull, Shopify, and McDonald's. And as you can see, they're all quite different ads, but they all focus on like the really good branding in my opinion. So this is my top picks for really good ads. Red Bull have the niche with their sketches, and Montec with like amazing cool ski videos. McDonald's do its own thing. And as you can see, Shopify have included an influencer in one of their ads, Mr. Beast. I'm gonna try burgers later today, so we see. But yeah, so browse around within Ads Manager for your inspiration, and hopefully you will get some good ideas for your next campaigns. Let's see. Yeah, if this works. And when you have all that set, I think it's time that you go live with your ads. So the fun begins, and hopefully you earn a lot of money from it as well. But as Rebecca mentioned as well earlier, it's really important that you are being personal when you're running ads. So you want to target a quite broad audience, and that means that you will get a lot of different people that have a lot of different taste. So some people might prefer like reels or stories, while other might prefer like Facebook videos, or other might be more ready to see a video, see the products, click there, and other might be like actually in the hunting mode and actually looking for buying, example like a Houdini Dune-free jacket right now. So I think it's really good to make the ads personal, because that can make a big difference between being like overwhelmed or being like really enjoying the brand. And we have seen over all our ad accounts that we run, that if we use a mix of creative experiences, it helps engage the audience. So here on the right, you can see quite a few different type of ads. They're all from different brands that we run. But overall, like for all our ad accounts, we've seen 36% decrease in CPM of mixing up the creatives, but also 66% increase in impressions. So it's really important to mix the creatives so you get a really good experience on the platform. And a little bit what Rebecca talked about, building a long-term approach, but also mixing in branding. So a lot of our clients that we kind of onboard, we see it's only basically performance driven, especially the one who've been online for quite a while, because it used to work really, really good to only do performance ad, and you saw like great ROAS, great performance, etc. But since the iOS update, it's been a little bit more tricky. You need to start thinking more like a little bit back in time, but also combining the new and the old school. So what we have done is we added branding into the performance campaign, and we almost doubled the sales within like just a few weeks, but not increasing the budget. So we just kind of shuffle around a little bit of the campaign goals, testing a couple of new things, and we saw a quite good increase in the revenue of a couple of our clients. So here you have like a great example of the two different types of ads. In this case, it's from Houdini. So we have like a video ad that's more like branding, but then you mix it with a performance ad that's more focused on like the, let's say, what people like about the brand, but then you have the products underneath, so it can be quite good in that sense. So always think long term, and you might see immediate impact as well. And then a little bit what Rebecca talked about, use the right ad for the right placement. So there are quite a few different placements on Meta's ads platform. So you have like Facebook feed, you have Instagram feed, you have the different kinds of reels and also stories. So in this case, I don't think it's really look so right. So you can see it kind of look a bit strange, because for Facebook, it should be 1 by 1, the feed. For Instagram, 4 by 5, and for reels or stories, 9 by 16. So this doesn't look like so nice. This is a mock-up I did. So please don't do this. What you should do instead is something like this. So you make sure the right placement for the right format for the right placement. So you have the best brand experience as possible. And then when it comes to, I know the big questions like budget, how much should I allocate, where in the funnel, etc., etc. It's quite different. So you're in only like a brand that only do branding, maybe Coca-Cola or Red Bull, they don't sell on their website. Or it might be a brand like Montec or Houdini that needs to do branding and performance. So when it comes to allocation of the budget, I've seen, like in this case, and of course all customers are different and all brands, but for only branding, around 70 to 60% for new customers of the budget, and around 30 to 40% of the budget to retargeting. And as you can see for the branding and performance, for the branding ads, around 24%, so like the reach ad as example, consideration around 23%, worked quite good. So like a video ad or like a engagement ad, or even traffic if you like that. And then conversion, quite obvious, 53%, because this is where you get most of the money or see the return. So this is a little bit of example, and if you have any questions about this or need help with your allocation of the budget, just please reach out afterwards, and I'm more than happy to help. And then of course I think it's time to optimize the ads. So do a couple of tests, quite a few, I think is quite good. So of course try a couple of different ads. So maybe you need to try a photo ad or a video ad or a live video, stories, reels, or even events, or even lead ads, as Rebecca mentioned earlier, working quite well. But I think what we have seen is Meta ran an experiment that if you run at least 15 experiments a year, you see around 30% increase in ad performance. And we've seen, like, this is actually a true number, and we've seen even better ad performance of running different tests. And when we say tests, it might be different placements, it's different text, etc. So we do a lot of A/B testing on the ads, but we also have conducted quite a few conversion lift studies with, for example, Rebecca, and they're really great for getting an insight of your brand, because some brands might think everyone in Sweden knows about them, but then they do this test and it comes down maybe only 5% to 10% knew about the brand. So it's going to be like sometimes even a shock for a couple of brands that, wow, we haven't done any branding at all, so we need to push that.
Yeah, I think the testing part here is really important to highlight. And for one, we do see that it gives an increased performance because you know what's working, but it also gives you, as maybe the creative part of the brand, sense of direction of what is actually working. So it does many things. It tells you what your audience wants, and it also gives you a really good data-driven way to work on increasing your performance and bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really good, like, do as many tests as you can, as long as you can afford it, and see good results, and based on data as well. That's why we always do audience insights to see like different ages, where they live, etc. And of course that ends up in the ads reporting. So just make sure you do regularly ads reporting, because otherwise you should probably don't know what you're doing. And lastly, like, compare top products. So for example, Houdini, I think a popular item from them is the Power Hoodie. I think at least everyone in the Keywordy office have one.
Definitely, at least one.
Me too.
So we can try different types of ads with different types of products to see, does the best selling product is also the best performing ad, or is it another ad, etc., and different colors, etc. So do a lot of testing, because that will help you improve and get to know your audience better. And then lastly, like, experimented reels is one of the newest, I guess, placements for Meta. And there are two different types, is video or static. So just try them. We've seen really good results lately on reels, and you can either use video format on Instagram or Facebook, or the static format on Facebook as well. So just try it out, and hopefully you see some good results, and we're more than happy to help you set it up as well. But just make sure you have the right format as well. It's 9:16. And then it comes down to a little, I guess, B2B strategy that we have tested. There are many, but this is one of them that we have tried and it worked quite good. And it's thinking about especially having trade fairs. So I know if trade fairs can be expensive, but it also quite time consuming. So if you don't have a massive team, it might be difficult to attend all of them, because there are a lot of them out there. So we have done a little bit of a strategy for before the event, during the event, and post event. So before the event, we can do like relevant searches for it. And then during the event, Meta is a key platform to come in. So we do like a pinpoint drop of the actually fair event, and we push it quite a lot on Meta's different placements, but it's only shown during the opening hours of the fair. So the idea is every time you open Facebook or Instagram, etc., you're supposed to see the ad that is super relevant. So we have chosen often a video that super like clear message that is targeting people who are at just this fair, and it's clear that what they do as a company and also the logo, so people will remember it. So a super clear, engaging video is a great way for this. And we've seen like mixing, I guess the targeting. So one channel is usually not enough for this. So using different channels and try it out, because if you are there in person, it's two ways people will notice you. And there are usually quite a few different, I would say, booth people will walk by. But if they also see you on Instagram, for example, that will add one more point to see. And then, of course, after the event, it's really important to do the activation. So do the retargeting people who might have signed up or view the video or visit your website, and do a really like tailored message to them that, hey, we met you at this fair. You want to know better or book in a meeting, etc., or sign up to your newsletter. That's the message we tried afterwards. And overall, for our B2B clients, we have seen 460% decrease in CPM for doing this test, and also giving them 62% as an average more leads. So it's quite good for the metrics as well. So try it out, but there are plenty of other tools we use for B2B as well. But this was just an example. And here I took one creative from one of my old unis. And I guess they do a lot of fairs as well because they want to get more students.
Of course. But I mean, B2B is not only about e-commerce B2B, it's also about selling big services like bigger package, or having a very complex solution. Let's say that you're building things for a logistic chain, for example. It takes a long time to buy this. There's a lot of trade shows that you need to target, and to actually scale this out in your B2B marketing. It's just a great way, and being able to retarget based on video views. You can speak to these visitors to the trade show for a long time afterwards, and it's just a great way to build your brand awareness, no matter what type of services. If you're IBM and selling really big packages, down to small niched B2B e-commerce companies. So yeah, this is a great playbook to work with.
No, exactly. And then I think one little bit of a reminder that's super important. The advertising will be very difficult if you haven't correctly installed your Meta Pixel. So before you had usually your website, and you install the pixel on the website, and you can track the browser data and send it straight to Meta. However, after the iOS, you might all have experienced this issue or difficulty, that you don't get all the data that's coming from the website to Meta, which makes it a bit more difficult to run the ads. So what we have done instead for a lot of our clients is, your customers are here. You use other interactions as well. So if you use a CRM system like Klaviyo or Voyado or Emrys or something, and then you connect both your website and the CRM system to your server, and then you connect the server to a conversion API that then sends data to Meta, you can see a lot better results. So here's an example of the top of funnel. So the turquoise is from the conversion API from the server, while the blue is from the pixel. And as Rebecca said, especially if you are doing that branding and your retargeting audience are like 4 times, then you want to retarget them as well. But if you lose out on, let's say, there's basically double the amount of the data from clicks. So if you can afford losing out, in this case, 26,000 clicks or website traffics that day, that will be quite a lot of money that you would have paid for an audience that you can't actually retarget. So if you take that into like the CPCs of the ads, that kind of adds up. If you have like the CPC of 1 kroner, that's 26,000 kroner that you can spend on other things. And it also comes down at the bottom of the funnel, so like complete the registrations.
Yeah, and this ties in really well as, together with what we spoke about before too, that this is part of the foundations, right? So we need to have conversions API and all of those foundations in place, and then you can start playing around with all of the other solutions that we have.
Exactly. So it's super important that you have conversion API implemented on your website and connected to Meta, because it will help your results skyrocket, I would say.
Yeah.
We've seen some really insane results of just connecting it just the day after. So yeah, if you haven't done it or need help with it, we're more than happy to help you out with this.
I mean, this is a great example of a project.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because here, maybe you have an in-house team that runs your paid social, but having a second opinion and deep dive onto the pixel, we typically always find things that can be improved. That is just super important for your team long term. So it's a great example of a special project and how we work on those things.
Exactly. And then, of course, if you have time, read this blog about the influence marketing place. It's a great new tool by Meta, and this is kind of more insight of how it's working and how you can utilize it. So yeah, scan this QR code and you can get a nice read on the topic, because as you heard from Rebecca, the influencers ad are usually performing a lot better than the others. So yeah, I think that's everything for today. We are a bit low on time, so if you have any questions, please contact us afterwards, and we're more than happy to either take a meeting with you and go over them, or even take a one-on-one with this presentation and just go over it with you. And don't mention, we also have a little fun event coming up in June. You should all get an invitation to it. So we have a golf competition. So if you play golf and want to play at one of the nicest golf courses in the Nordics, yeah, we will be super happy if you could attend. But you will get the invitation sometimes next week to the event.
Yeah, and it will be very exclusive event, and it will be people that are really specialized in digital marketing. So we will make sure that it's great moderated. You will learn and get a lot of new ideas and inspiration from it, and you will be able to play your best golf in your life on this course.
Yeah, exactly. So awesome. But thank you so much for attending. And let's see here. I will stop sharing the screen. So yeah, thank you so much for joining in. And again, if you have any more questions afterwards, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, have a great afternoon.
Thank you.